Hello everybody. We're going to take a look at Unit 5.2K, and today's unit is converting temperature from between Fahrenheit and Celsius. And to do this, we have some, you can read about this or watch videos about this at Khan Academy in the Overview tab. And you can also go to the GED WAMAP Formula Sheet tab to find the formula for converting Fahrenheit to centigrade and centigrade to Fahrenheit. And this is not a GED question, so this is only for the WAMAP or to do well in this math class. You need to know this. So here they are, and they are a little bit confusing. Centigrade is equal to 5 times the difference between the Fahrenheit temperature and 32 divided by 9. And then Fahrenheit is equal to 9/5 centigrade plus 32. So I'm going to explain it in a different way that I hope will help you remember. So let's take a look at the tablet. Okay, so does anyone know what the freezing temperature of water is? Not everyone has that at the tip of their fingers, but in Fahrenheit it's 32. 32. And how about the boiling point? And we're talking about 1 atmosphere of pressure at sea level. Okay, so that is 212. And those are kind of arbitrary numbers, right? Like Y. We won't get into that here, but Celsius, which is also called centigrade, from centi for 100 and grade meaning degrees or gradation. Celsius goes from 0 degrees to 100. Water boils at 0 and, water freezes at 0 and boils at 100. So what we have to do when we want to convert between these two is to zero out Fahrenheit. And the way we do that is we're going to subtract 32 from whatever the Fahrenheit temperature is. And we're always going to, if we subtract 32, we do the equivalent of zeroing out the Fahrenheit temperature. And then the difference between 0 degrees and 100 degrees is 100 degrees. So you have 100 gradations. And the difference between 32 and 212 is 180. If we take the ratio of those two, these are both divisible by 10. But they're also both divisible by 20. So if we divide the top and the bottom by 20, the numerator and denominator by 20, we're going to end up with 9/5. 9/5 will be a really important ratio for calculating the for doing the conversion, calculating the conversion. Thing is, we only want to do, we have to do the addition. We have to take into account the difference of 32 degrees after we have expanded or contracted the zeroed out Fahrenheit. So let me show you what that means. In today's question, we're converting 66 degrees Fahrenheit to Celsius. So 66, and let's take a look at that. So we want centigrade from this. So they say it's 5 times whatever the Fahrenheit temperature is minus 32 over 9. Okay. So this is a neat way of writing it, and if you are following PEMDAS, you will subtract this out first. Okay, so if you're good with formulas, you can go ahead and use this. Another way to think of this is we're going to zero out this 66. We're going to take away 32 to zero it out. And we get 4 and then 3, 34. We got 34 degrees, and then this is what we're going to divide by. We're going to divide that by our ratio here. We're going to divide it by 9/5. And then, so to divide this by a fraction, we have 34 times the inverse, right? And then this should give us our converted figure. So let's try that. 34. My calculator is still broken, but I'm going to fix it. I'm going to get a new one, actually. We're going to do 5 over 9. And that should give us the temperature, 18.88888. So 18.88, and that's repetand, right? So that 8 just goes on forever. Let's take a look at WAMAP and see what they wanted. Round your answer to the nearest tenth, they say, so let's do that. We've got 18.88, and I always suggest that you underline the number you're rounding to and draw a little arrow to the one on the immediate right. And if it's 5 or more, then this number that's underlined is going to go up by 1. So we're going to end up with 18.9 as our final answer. Let's go ahead and put that in and see how that works. Okay, awesome. That was correct. Okay, so it gets a little bit tricky when we're converting from centigrade to Fahrenheit. So let's take a look at that. The next problem, we're converting 17 degrees centigrade to Fahrenheit. So again, you can look at your, we're going into Fahrenheit. We want to know what Fahrenheit equals. So we've got 17 degrees. And in Fahrenheit, that's going to be 9/5 of the centigrade temperature. And then we're going to add the 32 degree difference. So we have 17, and we're going to do the inverse. When we want to convert 17 degrees C into Fahrenheit, we're going to do the inverse of what we did. And that means inverting the order too. So instead of dividing by 9/5, we can use the different sign and we can multiply. So we can do 17 times 9/5. So that's the inverse, right? Multiplying that. And then we're going to add 32. So instead of subtracting 32 to zero it out, first we're going to expand the centigrade value by 9/5, which is this ratio of Fahrenheit to centigrade. And then we're going to add 32 degrees to that. That's to put it back up on this non-zero scale. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So 17 times 9/5 plus 32, let's try it out here. So let me just make sure we're writing what I said. Let's get rid of this. We'll have 17 times and 9/5. So let's 9/5, put in that other parenthesis in there. Just make sure we do that first, and then we're going to add 32. So with Fahrenheit, you subtract 32 to get it down to the zero value. So as if it's on a scale where the Fahrenheit scale is also 0, and then you just have to convert using this ratio. So when we go the other way, we take the Celsius value has 0 as the freezing point of water. So then we just are going to multiply it by this 9/5 ratio and then add. So it's kind of like the whole thing is backward. We're adding at the end, whereas we subtracted in the beginning for Fahrenheit to centigrade. And then we divided by 9/5. And here we're going to first multiply by 9/5 and then add 32. So it's kind of tricky because they both don't end on 0, right? Their freezing point is not 0 in both scales. So let's see how that works out. This feels like, okay, so here and we need to hit enter. So we have this to make sure. 17 times 9/5 plus 32. And we'll hit enter. And that should give us our answer. We got 62.6. And we're assuming that's an even 62.60. So if that's a 0, then if you were to round, it would be 62.6. There would be no change, right? So let's put that in and see how we did. 62.6. Fingers crossed. Okay, so these are a little bit tricky, but if you think about it in this way, you have to zero out Fahrenheit. That means you have to subtract 32, so that would make the freezing point the same, make the scale the same. And when you start with Celsius, you just multiply this by 9/5, and then add the 32 in order to, because it's 32 degrees higher than the Celsius equivalent. All right, so give that a try. And if you run into trouble, just click on that message instructor button, and I'll try to get back to you within 24 hours. Go ahead and run a couple of similar questions. If you want, you can use these and see how you do. Oops, these are not the correct answers for those. They didn't get reset. So go ahead and try this. 41 degrees Fahrenheit to Celsius and 7 degrees centigrade to Fahrenheit. Give those a try and see how you do.